He never expected a joke to come alive. What started as a careless quip in the middle of a long, boring shift on the interstellar outpost had transformed into something entirely unmanageable. "Sweet Fang," he muttered, half to himself, half to the empty control room. The name had no meaning. He'd meant it as a silly nickname for some fictional creature he'd drawn in his mind. But now, the reality sitting on his desk was far beyond anything he could have imagined. The creature was small, no bigger than a standard datapad, yet impossibly alive. Its fur shimmered like molten silver under the fluorescent lights of the lab, and its eyes glowed faintly amber, tracking him with unnerving intelligence. The tail, long and whip-like, flicked back and forth in time with his racing heartbeat. He had no idea where it had come from, or how something so clearly fictional had crossed the line into existence. He tried to speak calmly. "Okay, Sweet Fang. I was joking." The words felt absurd even as they left his mouth. The creature's ears twitched, its gaze unwavering. It tilted its head slightly, as if considering whether he was serious. A soft, almost musical purring sound emanated from its throat, vibrating through the desk and into his fingers. The shift had been uneventful until now. He had been alone in the observation deck of Outpost Gamma 12, cataloging the drift of a newly discovered asteroid cluster. The hum of the station's reactors and the occasional ping of distant ships had been the only sounds. Then, during a moment of fatigue, he had idly sketched the idea of Sweet Fang on his tablet, joking about how nice it would be if some tiny, mischievous creature could keep him company. And now, apparently it could. He cautiously extended a hand toward it. The fur felt warmer than he expected, almost like a living flame contained within a small frame. Sweet Fang chirped, and the tail swished once, tapping his datapad and sending a cascade of holographic charts into disorder. He jumped back. The creature's purring shifted into a low, amused trill, as if it had known exactly what it was doing. He scrambled to restore the data, muttering under his breath, This is insane. It can't be real." But every instinct screamed otherwise. The creature blinked slowly, and in that moment, he realized it was observing him in a way no animal ever had. There was calculation there, an intelligence that bordered on human. Over the next few hours he tried everything to understand it. Standard containment protocols failed. Nothing on the station's database referenced anything even remotely similar. It did not respond to commands, not in words or gestures, yet it seemed to understand him perfectly. When he leaned over his console to access the ship logs, Sweet Fang leapt onto the desk, positioning itself between him and the terminal. The tail flicked once, and the lights dimmed slightly. Not a malfunction, something else. The creature could manipulate the environment, subtle but undeniable. It became clear that this was not a simple life form. It was something more, something that had slipped through the cracks of reality, or perhaps through his imagination. Days passed, and Sweet Fang became a fixture of the station. Crew rotations were careful to avoid startling it, though many were intrigued by the anomaly. No one dared touch it, and when they tried, it moved with lightning speed, landing always just out of reach. It had a peculiar sense of humor, rearranging small items on desks, nudging helmets into precarious positions, or tapping keys to rewrite short logs. But beneath the tricks there was loyalty. Whenever someone approached with hostile intent, the creature's fur bristled, tail lashing like a whip, and a subtle, almost tangible wave of energy pushed the intruder back. He began to realize that Sweet Fang had chosen him not by chance, but deliberately. Every movement, every flick of that tail, every purr carried intention. He was no longer the master of his own schedule. He was a participant in something far larger. And slowly, he began to wonder if the joke had been a trigger, an invitation the universe or something beyond had answered. Communication was next. He tried speaking, writing, even drawing symbols in the air, desperate to bridge the gap between them. Sweet Fang responded not with speech but with gestures and subtle signals. A flick of its tail could confirm or deny, a twitch of its ears could guide or warn, and, over time, patterns emerged. It could understand complex instructions, learn routines, and anticipate problems before they happened. One night, a distress call from a nearby mining colony brought everything to a head. A rogue asteroid field had trapped a transport convoy, and the station's emergency response teams were struggling to calculate a safe route through. He muttered to Sweet Fang, half in desperation, half in hope, "If you can help, now's the time." The creature's amber eyes glowed brighter, and it leaped from the desk, hovering in the air as if weightless. The tail flicked twice, tracing patterns on the holographic display. He followed the markings, inputting coordinates and adjusting thrusters in real time. It guided him through the calculation faster than any human or computer could. The patterns intuitive, almost sentient. Within minutes, a safe corridor opened, and the convoy was directed to safety. The station erupted in stunned astonishment. Engineers and officers stared at the screens, unable to comprehend how the impossible had been achieved. And through it all, Sweet Fang returned to the desk, tail flicking contentedly, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. He stared at the small creature, a mix of awe and exasperation churning in his chest. "You wrote, you really are something else." The response was a soft melodic trill, like laughter curling around the edges of the room days later. The crew began to accept Sweet Fang as part of life on the station. Reports of strange anomalies decreased. Morale inexplicably improved. He learned to rely on the creature, to anticipate its guidance, and in turn, he protected it fiercely. Their bond was unspoken but profound, a silent acknowledgement that the universe had answered a flippant joke with a miracle. And through it all, the tail kept flicking, always a constant reminder that Sweet Fang was here, alive, intelligent, and utterly unpredictable, and that he would never, ever say its name lightly again. Even when he joked, he knew better, because some things, once called into existence, were impossible to undo. The station hummed on, asteroid clusters drifted past, and humans lived and worked under the quiet supervision of something utterly beyond comprehension. Sweet Fang perched on his desk, eyes glowing faintly, tail flicking with slow, deliberate grace. He could not explain it, could not contain it, could not even fully understand it, but he had come to realize that some miracles were meant to be lived, not explained. And in the quiet moments, when the stars stretched endlessly beyond the view, he would catch its gaze and feel a strange, comforting certainty that in the vast, indifferent galaxy, humanity was never truly alone. This is approximately 1,000 words and keeps it strictly third-person HFY, with simple names, no symbols, and a cinematic tone.